My name is Sam Stevens. I'm one of the co-owners of Stevens and Company. We're a First Nation law-owned company. My daughter is a First Nation person who works in mostly in employment law. For the past 10 years, I worked in Indian residential school claims, day school claims. And so I enjoyed working in that area because I felt that I was able to help a lot of people through not just filing their claims, but assisting them as they begin to process the difficult issues that they faced in talking about the abuses that they suffered when they were in school. And so it's an area I think that we can help a lot of people in the day school area, claims area. As a lawyer since 1994, but specifically for the last 10 years in Indian residential school, day schools. I've handled hundreds of Indian residential school claims for survivors. And now we are working in representing day school students. Stevens and Company, because of our experience dealing with Indian residential school and day schools, can help anyone who's making application for a day school settlement, in the sense that we can fill out applications. The $10,000 application is a simple application. For the most part, most people can fill that out. But the more difficult levels of abuse with the day school settlement, which would be classified as level 2, 3, 4, and 5, are much more difficult. They involve a lot more detail. All of the claims in those areas, people usually are bothered by post-traumatic stress because of the abuse that they went through. So it requires someone who knows what they're doing in order for the lawyer to be able to get the necessary details that are required for the application. So we can do that because of our experience working with Indian residential school claimants previously. So Stevens and Company charges a maximum of 5% on whatever the compensation for the settlement, the individual settlement is, but no more than 5%. For that 5% to be awarded to Stevens and Company, we have to go to the federal court for a judge to look at the fee that we've charged, the 5%, to determine whether that fee is reasonable depending on the amount of work that we've done. So nobody will ever be overcharged. The claim process initially was thought to maybe take 4 or 5 months to get the initial $10,000 basic payment, but we're seeing that it's taking many, many months longer than that. And so the average is likely 6, maybe 6, 7 months. The more difficult claims, such as level 2, 3, 4, and 5, will take longer because there's much more to look at. Well, the first step in filing a claim with Stevens and Company is, first of all, there are some basic documents that we require. We require you to enter into a contingency agreement with us, that is the fee agreement for 5%. Secondly, we need some basic information. Those documents we would send out to you in advance of any telephone call that we would make to you to follow up on your claim, to actually get the necessary information to file your claim. And then there are some identification, 2 pieces of government issued identifications that are required by our law society before I can begin to work for you. But once we have those documents, then we would schedule a a telephone interview that could be simply on the telephone, or it could be a Zoom telephone call, where I would then talk with you in depth, and based on that I would be able to fill in your application. I also am going to be looking for information from professionals that you've seen, such as doctors or counselors, to support your application. And those also would be sent in with your application. Very good question, a very difficult question. I might answer it by giving an example. I had a client who had gone to school. He was in grade 6 or in grade 2, so he was about 6 years old. And when he started, and he went through day school. In the process, his mom and dad were alcoholics, so he had very little to eat at home. He would see parties going on all of the time, and something happened to him at day school. He doesn't really recall it because he repressed it because it was so horrific. So the question mark for him was whether he wanted to file a $10,000 application, which would mean he wouldn't have to deal with his more serious abuse, or whether he wanted to go back and look at what had caused the difficulty for the more serious claim. And that's something which ultimately was his decision. But in the process, what he realized was that if he didn't deal with the more serious issue, that's something that would be with him the rest of his life. So he decided that even though it was going to be difficult for him, he wanted to deal with the more difficult issues. So it's not an easy area to make a decision about, and it really comes down to whether you want to deal with the more serious issue or stick with the sort of basic compensation for going to day school. And some of the difficult issues with the day school claims right now is that people have filed basic claims, and then they realize that they may have been a little hasty and they didn't really deal with the more serious issues, the upper level 3, level 4, level 5 issues. And they want to now readjust their claim. As long as they haven't been paid out or the claim hasn't been finally looked at and approved, they likely are going to be able to adjust their application, but they would have to do it very quickly, because as soon as the administrator of the claims approves the claim and writes the check or gives approval for writing the check, it's going to be very difficult to change your level of claim from level 1 to the higher levels.